Welcome to Wicked Wednesday with the Collective. If you've not subscribed to our channel, please do so. Also hit the thumbs up button and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything that we release. Tonight we're going to be reading The Crows by the Brothers Grimm. A worthy soldier had saved a good deal of money from his pay, for he worked hard and did not spend all he earned at the inn, eating and drinking as the others did. Now he had two comrades who were rogues and wanted to rob him of his money, but they behaved outwardly toward him in a friendly way. "Listen," said they to him one day, "why should we stay here shut up in this town like prisoners, when you, at any rate, could live proper and happy at home?" They talked so often to him in this manner that he at last agreed and was willing to run away with them, but they all the time thought of nothing but how they should manage to steal his money from him. When they had gone a little way, the two rogues said, "We must go by the right-hand road, for that will take us quickest to the border." Now they knew all the while what they were saying was untrue. As soon as the soldier said, "No, that will take us straight back into the town we came from. We must keep on the left road," they picked a quarrel with him and said, "What do you give yourself airs for? You know nothing about it." And then they fell upon him and took his money. But it was not enough until they put out his eyes and dragged him to a gallows that stood hard by, bound him fast, and then they left and went back into the town with the money. But the poor blind man did not know where he was. He felt all around him, and finding that it was below a beam of wood, thought that it was a cross, and said, "After all they had done kindly in leaving me under a cross, now heaven will guard me." So he raised himself up and began to pray. As night approached, he heard something fluttering over his head. It turned out to be 3 crows, who flew round and round, and at last perched upon the gallows. By and by they began to talk together, and he heard one of them say, "Sister, what is the best news with you today?" "Oh, if men knew what we know," said the other. "The princess is ill, and the king has vowed to marry her to anyone who will cure her, but this no one can do, for she will not be well until the toad of this pond is burnt to ashes, and the ashes swallowed by the princess." "Oh, indeed," said the first crow, "if men did but know what we know. Tonight will fall from heaven a dew, of which such wonder and healing power that the blind man who washes his eyes with it will see again." And the third spoke and said, "Oh, if men knew what we know. The toad is wanted, but for one, the dew is wanted, but for few. But there is a great dearth of water in the town. All the wells are dried up, and no one knows that they must take the large square stone out of the marketplace and dig underneath it, and that the finest water will spring up." Then the 3 crows had done talking. The man heard them fluttering round again, and at last away they flew. Greatly wondering at what he had heard and overjoyed at the thoughts of getting his sight back, he tried with all his strength to break loose from his bonds. At last he found himself free, and he plucked some of the grass that grew beneath him and washed his eyes with the dew that had fallen upon it. At once his eyesight came to him again, and he saw by the light of the moon and the stars that he was beneath the gallows and not the cross as he had thought. Then he gathered together in a bottle as much of the dew as he could to take away with him, and then he went to the pond, dug off the water, fetched the toad, and burnt it to ashes. And with the ashes he set out on his way toward the king's court. When the soldier reached the palace, he told the king he was come to cure the princess, and when she had taken of the ashes and been made well, he claimed her for his wife, as the reward that was to be given. But the king, looking upon him and seeing that his clothes were so shabby, would not keep his word, and said, "Whoever wants to have the princess for his wife must find water for the town," and thought to get rid of him that way. But the soldier went out and told the people to take up the square stone in the marketplace and dig for water underneath. And when they had done so, there came a fine spring. So the king could no longer get off giving him his daughter, and they were married and lived happily together. Some time after, as the man was walking one day through a field, he met his 2 former comrades who had treated him so basely. Though they did not know him, he knew them at once, and went up to them and said, Look up on me. I am your old comrade, whom you beat and robbed and left blind. Heaven has deafened your wicked wishes and turned all the mischief that you brought upon me into good luck." When they had heard this, they fell at his feet and begged for a pardon. And because he had a kind and good heart, so he forgave them and took them to his palace and gave them food and clothes. And he told them all that had happened to him and how he had reached these honors. After they had heard the whole story, they said to themselves, "Why should we not go and sit some night under the gallows? We may hear something that will bring us good luck too." The next night they stole away, and when they sat under the gallows a little while, they heard a fluttering noise over their heads, and the 3 crows came and perched upon it. "Sisters," one of them said, "someone must have overheard us, for all the world is talking of the wonderful things that had happened. The princess is well, the toad is taken out of the pond, a blind man's sight has been given to him again, and they have dug a fresh well that gives water to the whole town. Let us look about, perhaps we may find someone near. If we do, he shall rue the day." Then they began to flutter about, found the 2 men and flew at them in a rage, beating and pecking them in the face with their wings and beaks till the men were quite blind and lay dead upon the ground under the gallows. Days passed, and they did not return to the palace. Their old comrade began to wonder where they had been, and he went out in search of them. But he did not find anything but their bones, so he took them from the gallows and buried them in the ground.